In the mid-1990s, Jim Carrey was among the most recognizable faces on the planet. His physical comedy, elastic expressions, and manic energy made him a box office phenomenon. Films like Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber turned him into a cultural icon, while The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind proved his dramatic range. At his peak, he commanded a $20 million salary per film, a rarity even in Hollywood's golden age of star power. Yet over the past decade, Carrey has largely stepped away from the industry that made him famous. His appearances have become sporadic, selective. To understand this withdrawal, it's necessary to look beyond the surface of celebrity and examine the inner life of someone who spent years performing for the world. Carrey's ascent was swift and overwhelming. Born in Ontario, Canada, he grew up in financial hardship. Comedy became both an escape and a survival tool. By his early 20s, he was performing stand-up in Los Angeles, honing a style that was fearless, physical, and wholly original. His breakthrough came in 1994, a year that saw the release of 3 major comedies in rapid succession. Audiences were captivated by his willingness to abandon vanity, to contort his face and body in service of a laugh. He became synonymous with a particular brand of comedy, loud, unrestrained, joyful. But the public's appetite for that persona was insatiable. Carrey found himself typecast, expected to deliver the same performance again and again. The very thing that brought him success began to feel like a cage. Fame, particularly at Carrey's level, demands a kind of constant performance. Every public appearance, every interview, every photograph becomes part of a narrative the audience expects. For someone whose career was built on making people laugh, there was an unspoken pressure to always be on. In interviews from that era, glimpses of discomfort occasionally surfaced. Carrey spoke about the emptiness that followed applause, the way success failed to fill the void he thought it would. He described feeling like a puppet, performing a role that had been written for him by others. His pursuit of more serious, introspective roles in films like The Truman Show and Man on the Moon reflected desire to be seen as more than just a comedian. These performances earned critical acclaim, yet the industry and the public continued to define him primarily by his earlier work. Around the late 2000s, Carrey began to speak more openly about his inner life. He explored Eastern philosophy, meditation, and the nature of the self. He questioned the construct of identity, particularly the version of himself that existed in the public imagination. In one widely circulated interview, he remarked that Jim Carrey was just a character he played, no more real than any role he'd taken on screen. This wasn't a breakdown or a crisis. It was a philosophical reckoning with the idea of fame itself. He began to describe success as an illusion, a pursuit that distracted from deeper questions about meaning and existence. For someone who had achieved every conventional measure of success, this realization was both liberating and isolating. Rather than announce a formal retirement, Carrey simply became less visible. He turned down roles, avoided the press circuit, and spent more time in private. He took up painting, creating large, expressive canvases that he shared occasionally on social media. His art was raw, often political, sometimes dark. It was a form of expression that required no audience, no performance. He also became more selective about the projects he accepted. When he did return to acting, it was for roles that interested him personally, not for the paycheck or the publicity. His appearance in the Showtime series Kidding felt like a deliberate choice, a project that allowed him to explore themes of grief, identity, and performance in a more intimate format. This wasn't burnout in the traditional sense. It was a conscious redirection of energy toward things that felt more authentic, more aligned with the person he had become. Carrey's withdrawal from Hollywood coincided with a broader shift in how he engaged with the world. He spoke about the futility of seeking validation through external achievements. He described a kind of freedom that came from letting go of the need to be seen, to be celebrated. His social media presence became a window into this new life. He shared paintings, philosophical musings, and occasional commentary on current events. He appeared less interested in being a celebrity and more interested in simply existing. In interviews, when he did grant them, there was a calmness that hadn't been present in earlier years. He spoke slowly, thoughtfully. He laughed, but without the frantic energy that once defined him. It was as if stepping away from the machinery of fame had allowed him to become more fully himself. Jim Carrey's story is not one of disappearance, but of transformation. In an industry that often equates silence with failure, his retreat stands as a quiet assertion of autonomy. He chose introspection over visibility, personal meaning over public approval. His legacy is dual. He remains one of the most gifted physical comedians in film history, someone who brought joy to millions. But he also represents something more complex, the idea that success, as conventionally defined, is not an endpoint. That the person behind the performance has needs and questions that fame cannot answer. In stepping back, Carrey offers a different model of what a career can be. Not a relentless climb, but a journey that allows for pauses, for reassessment, for change. His withdrawal is not a loss to cinema, but a reminder that the people we watch on screen are, ultimately, human. And that sometimes, the most courageous choice is to walk away from what the world expects in search of what truly matters. Thank you for watching this exploration of Jim Carrey's journey beyond the spotlight. His story reminds us that success is personal, and sometimes the bravest path is the one that leads inward. This is part of an ongoing documentary series exploring the lives of artists and public figures who chose unconventional paths. If there's someone whose story you'd like us to cover next, let us know in the comments below. Your suggestions shape what we create. If you found this documentary insightful, please consider liking and subscribing for more thoughtful looks at the lives of creative minds who dared to redefine what it means to succeed. We'll see you in the next video.